The BS Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects.
First of all,
This is the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
it might be cool, I don't know. And if it's not, I don't care.
The BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons works for ESPN. He's also named the sports guy, and he writes a comical sports column. He must be a popular dude.
The BS Report.
It's got a real dirty sound, like a rusty steak knife cutting through a well-aged steak.
Now.
Here's Bill Simmons.
Welcome to the BS Report. We are taping this from the new Grantland podcast studio located in the wonderful LA Live building. We built this whole studio. We decorated it with cool pictures, Boston stuff, boxing, basketball, all kinds of stuff. And I can't think of a better first guest for us than my favorite boxer of all time, Sugar Ray Leonard. You're not in the Subway Fresh Tech hotline. You're here in the studio. Thanks for being our first guest.
Hey, thank you for having me.
I don't remember if we talked. We did a podcast before, and I don't remember if we talked about this, but when you fought Hagler, that was a huge thing for me emotionally because you were my favorite boxer. Hagler was a Boston guy. He was in Brockton. I grew up in Boston, and I had already become attached to you before Hagler became Hagler. Like Hagler had in the 70s, he was just fighting in Philly and fighting all these nobodies. You won me over in 76 in the Olympics. Mm-hmm. You were my guy. And then all of a sudden, starting about 82, it became like these two trains that were slowly going toward each other. And I'm like, oh no, who am I going to root for? And to be honest, I kind of made it a game time decision. I thought it was going to be you, but I didn't know for sure because I had been so attached to Hagler. Right. The fight started, I was in. I was like everybody else in the audience. I was like totally in. We did a big oral history about that fight on Grantland. And I think it's the most polarizing fight that's ever happened. And people are still arguing about this 25 years later. When you watch that fight over again, do you feel like you stole it or do you feel like you won it?
I stole it.
Intentionally, I
stole it.
Yeah.
I did whatever was effective against a guy like Hagler. Hagler was a very, very difficult fighter to face. He was ambidextrous. Strong. Never been knocked down. I've never seen him down. I've never heard about him being knocked down. So he had a granite chin. And as far as him being beaten early and then coming back, he has a history of coming back. Whether it's John DeBeast Mugabe, Tommy Hearns, Roberto Duran, he makes those.
Even Hearns. Hearns, he got cut. That fight would have lasted 2 more rounds.
Exactly. Yeah. So, it's one of those things. I knew what I was facing, but also kind of had I did a little due diligence when he beat Mugabe, and then he came to Maryland to help me out, open a restaurant, and I kind of...
You felt him out.
Well, yeah. I did. I kind of got inside his head because I wasn't considered a threat because I was retired and no one had any idea of my intentions to return.
But it's boxing. People always come back. Nobody ever walks away from boxing without coming back. Everybody misses it. Like, I'm sure for you it must have been hard because unlike some other guys, you had the detached retina. Right. Was it right eye or left eye?
Left eye.
And, how old were you at that point? Like 26?
25, 26. It's
the early 80s. You have all this money. All of a sudden you can't box anymore. It's like, what do you do? You had trouble with it. You wrote about that in your book.
I had major trouble with trying to come to grips with leading a ordinary life, if you will. After achieving what I did and what I was able to do back in the 80s, it was very difficult for me to say, let's walk away. I tried. Without question, I tried. But nothing gave me that sensation. Nothing gave me that feeling of having your hands raised.
Yeah.
Doing this, there is no greater feeling. There is no, bar none, of throwing your hands up and beating the best in the world.
Yeah. And that's what people like me, the writers, don't understand because we're always like, like when you fought Terry Norris. And it's like, oh man, why did Ray do that? Like, he should have just walked away. And it's like, we don't understand because you don't know. You're hoping that You're gonna come out for that Norris fight, and it's gonna be back, and you're gonna still have it, and you don't know until you find out.
But you know, Bill, I did know at times in training camp, because it wasn't the same. Because I went back to the ring, and thank God not for financial reasons, but I went back to that ring for safety.
Yeah.
Because when I was there in that ring, I was protected because I protected myself.
Yeah.
But I went back there because I was so broken down as a guy, as a man, because of my failed marriage with my first wife, Juanita.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have the same association with my kids. You know, I thought I was happy when I hung out with my boys, and you know, the drinks and the girls and this and that, the planes, the parties, you know, all those things didn't have substance, like a family, like my kids.
So you're looking back at that probably, and like, what would you do differently if you could do the 80s over again?
If I could, I mean, naturally I've been a better guy and husband, all that kind of good stuff. But you know, maybe I didn't know how to be a good guy or a good husband. Maybe I did. You get caught up in that whirlwind. I mean, think about it. I mean, I had, you know, as much money as I could spend. The fame was so seductive, and I mean, it's very, very difficult. And I'm not afraid to admit that I got caught up in it. You know, you don't believe your breath stinks. Everything is so for you. You know, first class seats, best restaurants. You know, you get upgraded on the airplane. I mean, all these things were happening, but
get 25 people laughing at your jokes.
Yeah,
talking to you how great you are on that.
Yeah,
stuff.
They get all in the yes men.
Yeah,
and you know, it got to a point that it became. There was no relevance to it. There was no evidence of me enjoying myself. So I went back, I thought, to where I could be calm or be happy in the ring.
And you had to learn the hard way that every boxer has it, though. It's you just go the line, and everybody's got to find out that one time.
But boxers go back. Unfortunately, they go back for financial reasons.
Right.
Because, I mean, I had other options I could have ventured into, but that didn't give me the satisfaction or the stimulation that I needed so bad. I know I was trying to find something to say, perking myself up, give me a shot of adrenaline. I wanted that shot.
Well, plus you had done it against Hagler, so you know, I'm not going to say you achieved the impossible, but the odds were against you that you could come back from that layoff, and after you do that, you probably feel like, I can do this anytime I want. I'm superhuman.
I really did. And also, there's an ego based upon that. You have to have a great ego to do what I've done. And you have to believe in yourself. And sometimes even believe that you never stop believing that you can't.
Yeah.
Or can, I should say. But you know what? I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's made me a better guy, a person, a better husband, a better father, a better friend. And my life now is full.
Well, it seems like you're a lot more reflective than a lot of people have been in your situation. Like, for instance, how old were you in the Montreal Olympics, 76?
I was 20.
You're 20. All of a sudden, you're one of the most famous people in America. You're doing the 7-Up ads. Yeah. You're boxing. Every fight you had was it CBS or ABC?
It was all
every fight you had was televised, basically.
I was not exclusive.
Yeah. And that's why, I started following you, because your fights were on television, and you were on in the afternoon. I could watch you. But when you look at somebody like, let's say LeBron James, somebody who became super duper famous when he was 17, or Dwight Gooden was famous with the Mets with 20, sometimes that's just not a fair process, right? Like, you're not even the person that you were eventually going to become, and you're this super duper famous guy. Can you see how, not only you had trouble handling it, but everybody else does? It's
also that world that you live in. Boxing is a poor man's sport without question.
Yeah.
And there are more. I mean, it's business, so it deals with money, and there's sharks out there. It's unscrupulous people. But there's unscrupulous people in all aspects of life and business.
That's true.
But it seems to be more prevalent in boxing, just because of the nature of it. But, I had good people around me. I had Mike Trainer, who orchestrated my career. I had James Morton, who was my mentor and my trainer. I had good people. I had Angelo Dundee, who I love.
Yeah.
I just had good people around me. You call them, back in the day, you call them secretaries, but my personal assistant, Karen Kinder, has been with me for over 30 years. I mean, people who are involved with my life, they were there for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Ollie Dunlap. I mean, James Anderson. I got people that remain a part of my life after my career had ended.
Did you learn any lessons from Ali? Or did this just happen independently of that?
Not really. No, I'm sorry. I take that back. No, I did learn a lot from Ali. In fact, that's why I got Angelo, because he said, Ray, if you ever decide to turn pro, make sure you get Angelo Dundee. He has the right complexion, the right connections. Right. He made that.
Well, I'm not even talking about boxing. I mean, just like you came in from the Olympics, and you kind of had a team, and you were either the first or one of the first people who kind of operated that way. And you had your money, people were investing your money the right way, all this stuff. How did you know how to do that?
I didn't know how to do that. I had a guy, again, I was blessed to have come across a guy, Mike Trainer, who allowed me to become the owner of my own destiny.
Yeah.
I would think one of the first free agents, if you will, the guy who ran his own company, the guy who ran his own career. I promoted myself.
Yeah.
Because of the exposure that I received from the Olympics. I mean, back in '76 and '77, boxing was always on television every week.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of exposure that was so just valuable that I was in that position.
You probably came along, I would say, at the single best time a boxer could have come along, because you had 1976, you had Rocky that started that year. You still had Ali. You were coming off this heavyweight boxing renaissance that really got Wide World of Sports, all that was on. You had the Montreal Olympics in '76,
which was huge.
That's when the Olympics really mattered.
Really mattered. Yes.
10 networks,
Yes.
I remember everything about '76 and '80. And the '80 Lake Placid, because we didn't have that many channels. It was like the Olympics are on. This is 2 weeks of content I'll be able to watch. And I'm not watching the Flintstones or the Brady Bunch or whatever I'm normally watching.
Well, you know what you was watching.
But so you hit it big in '76. Why you and why not? 5 guys won gold medals that year. Why was it you?
If I had the answer to that, I would sell it. But I don't know, timing.
Did you fight well in the Olympics? Like, I don't even remember what happened. Like, were you flashy? Did you have a good knockout?
I was a little.
It was
flashy.
you, right? It was basically you.
I looked at Ali. I watched him. I emulated him. I did the shuffles, and I did all of my hand speed was something. But Howard Davis was also extremely fast. And, you had the Spinks brothers. We had Leo Randolph. It was an amazing team.
It really was.
And we were not expected to win a gold medal. Maybe one, because the Cubans team was so dominant at the time that they felt that they would just totally annihilate all of us.
And they were pros. They were guys like in their late 20s, 30s.
They're mature.
Yeah.
They've been around the block quite a few times, experienced, strong, and their method of training was just above par.
Yeah. Did you feel like your career progressed, like when you fought Benitez, which I think was like 3 years, did you feel like it progressed it the right way? Because now you see they'll coddle these guys for 5-6 years now.
Right.
You were fighting guys within 3 years that were like the best guys.
What my plan was, or what the plan that my team had for me, was the fact that I would fight once a month, stay active, whether it's television or not, but just because the activity itself is very valuable. Sometimes twice a month.
Yeah.
And because I would fight, tall guy, short guy, strong guy, unorthodox guy, southpaw. I mean, I fought a variation of fighters. So when that time came for me to fight for a world title, I would be qualified to undertake the pressure, because it's the intangibles, for the most part, that when that fighter reaches that level of let's go fight for the title, he's not always prepared for.
Yeah.
Because he's been given too light of oppositions, too much.
Yeah.
Because at some point you got to reach down. At some point you got to be struggling to try to come up with that extra reservoir of strength. And I've faced that a few times in my career prior to the world title fight.
Yeah. The back then it was 15 rounds. Like, you knocked out Benitez in the 15th.
Yeah.
Hearns, I don't think, maybe you don't win that fight if it's 15. Or if it's 12. If it ended up to 12, it would have been screwed.
I was behind the judges' scorecards.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. I mean, Tommy was not a tough guy to fight. I mean, he's a tall, rangy guy. But the fight itself changed because when I finally hurt him, I think around the 5th round, 6th round, I think it was. And he outboxed me.
Yeah,
a number of
he
rounds.
flipped it. That's why it's one of the great fights of all time.
Yes.
You heard him. All of a sudden, you were the puncher.
Yep.
He's the boxer. And then it's just going on and on. That fight had like 4 arcs to it. And, it makes me wonder. And I know why we have 12-round fights now, not 15. I think 15's crazy. But at the same time, the drama of the 15 was better.
I don't think so. I feel opposite because I think
really opposite
because the 15 rounds that separates the men from the boys.
Right.
We are trained to go 15 rounds. That's when you push that envelope as far as you can. Sometimes you really go for the gusto, and sometimes it may not be there, but you still call upon that reserve that may not be there.
Yeah.
But it's the ones that were able to activate that reserve are the ones who stand out as a incredible and great fighter.
Well, I should mention that you pushed for the Hagler fight to be 12 rounds.
That was smart.
That was smart.
Yeah, but also the fact that
it gave you a better chance to win.
Well, I think for me psychologically it was cool. It was good. It was a plus for me. But I could have trained for 15 rounds. If I could have went 3 more rounds, I would have paced myself differently though.
Right.
I probably wouldn't have done those flurries and before the bell rung.
Yeah.
Because I did pretty much every round.
You had the guy yelling at what was he? 10,
no, 30
seconds. Oh, 30.
I told my guy, I already done that. I said, yell 30 seconds before the bell rings.
Yeah.
Because I would throw my combination and kind of impress the judges or the people because that's all you remember.
Right.
That last flurry.
That was. I think you invented that move.
I did. Well, I worked on that. I just knew that I could outpunch Hagler because of my hand speed, and that would be a major asset.
Do you buy that whole theory that the champ, you have to beat the champ to take the title?
That's one of those old sayings that has always resonated. No, I mean because I hit him 20 times, like with punches that could probably knock you out, could knock him out. I mean, you don't knock Hagler out,
right.
Okay? How about that? So they say, "Well, Ray's not punching hard. I punch as hard as I can against this monster here." And Hagler said, "Well, you didn't fight me like a man. You didn't fight me like Hearns and Mugabe and Durant. You knocked those guys out.
Right.
I shouldn't fight you like that.
Right. And this is my argument when I defend that you won the fight because it's an argument that'll come up and somebody will do the Hagler thing. They'll do you got to beat the champ to win the title. He stole rounds, all that stuff. I just didn't think Hagler fought a good fight. I thought he was slow. I thought he screwed himself up in the first few rounds by doing the opposite of what he normally did. And I mean, he started out southpaw, right? I'm blanking.
Yeah. Well, no.
No, he started conventional. And then he went southpaw.
But let's talk about this. All right, so I fought Durant back in '80 in Montreal.
The first one.
The first one. It was a split decision. He won. So did I deserve the nod on that decision? No, he beat me. I looked at him as beating me.
Yeah.
If that fight had taken place, the same style with Hearns or Durant, Hagler would have accepted it a lot easier because he just, it was so difficult for him to swallow the fact that, forget about if I got the decision or not, I went the distance with him.
Yeah.
No one thought I had a prayer. My brother, let me tell you something, my brothers didn't think I had a chance at all. At all. And they went to my
terrified.
camp.
There were a couple times in like the 5th round and like the 9th round when you were trapped in the corner. I was like, get out of there, you're going to die.
Oh yeah.
You could probably feel that from the crowd, right?
When the bell rung and I'm out there, it's like nervous energy because I'm fighting. I know who he is and I know what he can do. And I said, oh my God. That's what I'm saying to myself.
Yeah.
And then I threw a punch. I faked the punch and he did that. I said, hell, he's scared too.
Yeah.
Because people don't realize, I don't care how great you are, you have doubts too. Maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
There are doubts. And I played on those doubts.
And he might have been on the other side of the mountain a tiny bit, and he also might have been older. Nobody ever knew exactly how old Marvin Hagler was.
Right.
He might have been 35 in that fight.
35. You know what? If they keep picking at the tree, you're gonna find something.
Yeah.
But what happened to what was said prior to even signing the fight. Ray shouldn't fight Hagler because he would get killed. He would knock his eye out.
Well, the eye thing was a much bigger deal at the time. Everybody forgets that part. People thought you shouldn't fight because you were going to go blind.
That's exactly what they said. You go blind, and a lot of the opposition came from very concerned fans, and I respect it and I love that. But I knew. I mean, I didn't just make a quick decision to fight Hagler. I had discussions with my doctor, my ophthalmologist.
Yeah.
And he kept saying, Ray, I mean, you can't predict the future, but the chance of you hurting yourself, your eye, just as great as the other eye.
Yeah. Well, in that oral history, one of the things I learned that I didn't know was that you intended to fight him one way, kind of a little bit how you fought Duran.
Oh, my God, yeah.
And then you got tagged by a sparring partner.
That wasn't tagged. I was knocked out.
Almost knocked out. Who was the sparring partner? Quincy
Taylor.
Quincy Taylor. Like, how many days before the fight?
5.
And if that hadn't happened, you would have fought Hagler like you fought Duran in the first fight.
Because in training camp, and I trained in Hilton Head, South Carolina, I trained, and my body had just matured. I was 30 years old, and I was really strong as a bull, and I was hurting guys to the body, and I said, I'm going to stop this guy. I'm going to cut him up, because he had a lot of scar tissue.
Yeah.
And Quincy Taylor hit me, and my world almost went away because I was hurt bad, and the gym was packed. Forget about it, just packed with press, fans, and I kind of played off like Ollie did.
Right.
But I was so hurt, and thank God that my friend and sparring partner Quincy Taylor knew I was hurt, and he kind of held back.
Well, why didn't Quincy Taylor have a better career then? If he tagged you.
No, he became world champion.
Oh, he did? Okay,
he did.
Good. I don't remember that.
He lost it, but because he didn't keep it as long.
Yeah.
But he just an incredible puncher, and God, he woke me up.
The other thing I didn't know in that fight was, there were lots been made when you had the press conference, when you held this big press conference, you invited Hagler. What was this, 1984? 1983?
82. I retired in 82, yeah.
So you bring them, and everybody thinks you're going to announce this fight, and you say, and it's too bad it's never going to happen, and that was it. You retired. And you said in the oral history, like, you had actually done cocaine that night, and you were kind of flying.
I was going through a period of trying to come to grips with reality, which, I did not. And I just consumed a great deal of cocaine.
Not just that night, but you were doing it for like a year, a couple years?
A couple of years.
Yeah.
A few years. But I mean, when I did it before I went on stage in the ring to announce that. So I didn't know what, because I knew that I was speeding and I was like, my heart rate was just crazy. But I had brought Hagler there, kind of to add some spice to it.
Yeah. And
was it wrong? Yeah, it was wrong to have led him on like that. But then again, it was showbiz. You know, because I think outside the box, and I'm trying to create all this stuff. Why, would I do it now? No, I would never put him in that position.
Yeah. Because
no one really knew what I was going to say. I didn't know what I was going to say, especially after consuming the drugs, and I didn't drink. I didn't drink before the press conference or the announcement, but it was just one of those things.
That era was the early 80s, mid 80s, right up until Len Bias, basically. Cocaine was everywhere. It was in Hollywood, it was in sports, all that stuff. Like, how did you get mixed up in that?
Well, again, leaving the ring unintentional, now looking for that outlet.
Yeah.
I was introduced to cocaine from, whether it was my older brother, or just in the street. I mean,
It was just around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would come to L.A. cause I lived back east in Maryland. I come to L.A. and it's just there. It's always there. Go to clubs, it's always there. And it was 80s was one of those periods where it was a cool executive thing to do.
And nobody really totally knew yet that it wasn't, there was really no upside whatsoever.
And it wasn't the killings and people wouldn't die, back then. And maybe they were. We just didn't know. But, do I fault myself? Yeah. I mean, because it consumed me. Because once you take a little bit, you take a lot. When you take a lot, you take too much. And that's how I went. I mean, some people can just do it and quit. I could never just quit like the drugs. Well, I did quit the drugs. The drugs was an easier thing to kick without going to a rehab.
So you never went to rehab?
Never went to rehab.
Really?
I just stopped. Because, I found myself, first of all, I was like 120, 30 pounds. I was so thin. And I would say, did I look thin? No, champ, not you. It was always that, no, champ. Because they look at me and see what I want them to say. I said, do I look thin? No way, champ.
130 pounds?
Yeah, I was borderline. I was getting to a dangerous.
So when did you cut off? Like, what year was that?
James Anderson, who was my security guy.
Yeah.
For many years. One day, because he didn't never did drugs.
Yeah.
And then one day he said to me, he said, you son of a bitch. He said, think one day, if you get arrested for having drugs, you would cause irreparable harm to your kids. He said, hell with you. Think about your kids. And that night, after doing so much coke, I looked in the mirror and I just broke down. I just emotionally, I was devastated because I thought about it, and my high went away, and I stopped. I just stopped. But then the alcohol continued to escalate, But thank God. My older brother Roger, who took me to the gym to box, he has been clean now for 30-some years. He was an heroin addict. So drugs. Drugs. Is in my family, and alcohol is in my family. And
what year was that when you were 130 pounds? That wasn't in the mid 80s, was it?
Oh, it was like 83.
Wow.
I lost a lot of weight.
Jeez.
I was a mess because I didn't eat. You don't want to eat. It just
you're flying.
You're always flying. And
how come so many? I think there's more athletes than just you. We know some of them from the 80s that never went public, and you're pretty honest about it. Why are you so honest about it?
Well, because it's for me. It's for me to make amends. It's for me to clean my plate. It's for me to let go of all the stuff I suppressed all these years, whether it's the sexual abuse, whether or not it's the infidelities, whether it's just me being just a jerk or an asshole. I've cleaned my plate. And
right.
I sleep better at night.
Yeah.
I do. I really do.
How tough was it for you to talk about the sexual abuse in the book? And what?
That haunted me and has been haunting me for over 30-some years. And I told my first wife, Juanita. I told her one day, and it was after a few glasses of wine or whatever, because I could never talk without some substance or whatever about that.
Yeah.
And I told her, and I said to her what had happened, and she looked at me with the strangest look, and she was almost in tears, but she was trying to be strong for me, but she didn't know how to respond. She said nothing. So I quickly changed the subject and pushed it under the rug. And then many years later, 10, 15, whatever it was, I married my second wife. And again, I told her when I had a few drinks, too many, and I told her the same thing. And she had the exact same expression of Juanita. Exact same thing, same look of what do I say and what do you say? What do you do? And I did the same exact thing. I pushed it under the rug and just changed the subject. So I've been carrying that for 30-some years. And, when I would talk to my writer about some of the
Talk about your childhood, all that stuff. Yeah.
And when we go into that, I kind of talk about that a little bit, but I become a publicist. I don't talk too much about it. I say enough to protect me. And then that night or that evening, I was watching television. I saw Todd Bridges on Oprah talk about child abuse, whatever.
Yeah.
And the next day, I told him everything, and he couldn't write it down fast enough because it was something I held close to me.
Yeah.
And then I was scared out of my mind because now it's not just public, it's worldwide. Because with technology, everything just goes, and I'm freaking out now, but I feel better. And then I do book signings, and then I talk about this sometimes in my speeches, and it's good. It's good. I'm being of service. I help myself out so well now. I mean, I'm so clear. I'm so free, and hopefully that it helps out another young man or kid who has dealt with this but doesn't know how. Because people they challenge you when you say that, especially for a guy.
Right.
Well, no, girl. I take that back. Women and men, young girls and boys. When you say
when you say challenge, like they think you make it up.
Yeah, I mean,
really?
Yeah, and they say, well, you say that to sell your book. You're the stupidest, heartless. I mean, it's not worth that. It's not worth. I mean, think about it. Put it in perspective. I don't need that.
I can't imagine why anybody would say that.
Yeah, but you have people out there who questions and who challenges and what have you. But I tell that person who's dealing with what I've dealt with for so long, you do it for yourself.
Yeah.
And in return, you can help somebody else out.
So you probably had, I mean, that was probably the big takeaway from your book tour and stuff. You probably heard from a bunch of people who were probably hiding some things in their own lives and went to you and said, thanks for bringing that up. It made me want to tell somebody.
That did happen. During my book tour, the book signings, every now and then a guy would come up to me and he will hug me and share a tear. I mean, he can be in a suit, he can be tattooed, whatever. It doesn't discriminate. And, I felt good. At first, I didn't know what to say at first, for the first few times it happened. I mean, from different walks of life, from every walk of life, someone's come to me and said that, thank you, and you gave me courage. And I'm like, hey, you give me courage, and I thank you.
I would imagine you'd have trouble even coming up with the right response because it's like hard for them to come to you.
Yeah, because I don't know what to say because I'm, when I was boxing, when you say, hey, I saw your fights, man, you really, God, I love you, man, this and that. That's natural for me. This was unnatural, but it's become more natural for me now. Because I used to get very emotional when talking about this, and I see now. I mean, I got stronger. It empowered me,
right?
If anything.
So you're glad you did it then?
Oh, without question.
Yeah, I'm glad you did it too.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's like the toughest thing you could admit in a book, I think, because you probably felt like just a ton of shame. You blame yourself. You go through all those stages, and then it's like you just never want to talk about it.
The shame and the stages. And some of my friends say, why would you tell them that? I mean, why? I told them that because I was hurting.
Yeah.
Been in pain, for 30-some years. Why? And now I feel better. Why?
So you really do sleep better now?
Oh, without question.
That's interesting.
It's my life. I mean, God, I'm 55 years old, and I've learned to take hold of my life. I did it in boxing, with my career, but not my life. I never took advantage. I took the bull by the horns as a man and as an individual, and I did that. And was it trepidation? Without question. I was so fearful. Not really the repercussions and the comebacks and the critics and whatever. I just, because you don't want to feel weak.
Right.
It's kind of a man thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of a dude thing, and you tend to convince yourself that is better off not being said. Keep to yourself. Keep to yourself. But that's when the toxin, the poison of what has happened to an individual really takes control of you, because it's never going to go away. It's never going to go away.
Yeah.
Until now.
Well, I'm glad you did it. I did. Yeah. You deserve to be commended. I can't believe anybody would say that you did that to sell a book, because you certainly don't need the money.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It just didn't make sense, because forget the money, forget the books. I mean, it's just the fact people don't say those things just be saying those things.
Yeah, that's the internet.
I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, the internet can be an angry place, I think.
Yeah.
Where do you see, not to switch gears, but I want to talk to you about boxing a little bit, and just, the heavyweight division's dead. We were talking about it before we started taping, about these fights now with Pacquiao just fighting these guys that they're going to beat. And that's something like when you fought, you wanted to fight the best guys at all possible times. And now it just seems like people smartly, I guess, they set up their next 3 opponents that they know they're going to beat to get that one big pay-per-view. What would you change if you could change this system? What would be the first thing you did?
I would bring back the word contender. You don't hear that anymore.
Yeah.
Back in the day, he's a number 3 contender, and that meant something. He's number 1 contender, and being number 1 contender, you're gonna fight the champ next.
Yep.
That meant something. You don't hear it, contender, being used anymore.
Well, because there's 4 federations. Like nobody, this guy's number 2 here and he's number 20 here, and nobody knows what to believe.
Yeah, exactly. And the last time I heard contender was like our TV show was.
I loved your TV show.
It was a great show. I think that show could really.
The first season was fantastic. Yeah, you got some stars out of that show.
Yeah,
those guys had some good careers. Alfonso Gomez, Sergio Mora.
They became household names for as long as they could, and it was a show that women wanted to watch, guys watch, kids watch. I mean,
but it was expensive, right?
It was expensive. Well, it was an expensive show.
That was the problem.
Yeah,
the rating. Yeah, although I wonder now with the way TV works now, because there's so many channels, the ratings have kind of gone down for what's considered success. I actually think you'd have a better chance now to do that show on a network.
And and there's always considerations. I just think it was so well done. It was such first show was so well done. Yeah,
I loved it. And then on cable, it's just not going to work as much because they got to cut costs, things like that.
Yeah.
Mayweather has positioned himself, and I don't know if it's intentional, if it's half intentional, but it seems like he wants to be the villain. And there's real money in being the villain. Like, you were the good guy. Like, if this was wrestling, you would be the good guy. You'd wear the white tights and you come out and fight the bad guy.
Not white tights, pink.
Well, or whatever, the Hulk Hogan tights.
Pink tights.
Mayweather wants to have the black tights on. I thought the Larry Merchant thing almost seemed like he had premeditated that.
No.
And you don't think so?
No, that was just a burst. It was so spontaneous.
Really? I felt like he was like, I'm going to go up Merchant. If he says anything about this, I'm flying at him.
No, that was because if you look at them, the reaction between Larry jumped back and like, holy shit. And then Larry said, well, if I was 50 years younger, I'd kick your ass.
Do you believe that?
No.
I'm going to say Floyd takes Larry 30 years ago.
Think so.
I'm going to bet money's on Floyd.
Larry Merchant called me, and he said, Ray, would you have thrown a sucker punch? And if I was 50 years younger, I could not beat Floyd Mayweather. But I think it's one of those things that you erupted because emotions were involved, and I don't think Larry Merchant is one of Floyd's favorite people, so it just ignited.
Doesn't seem like Floyd has any favorite people. Seems like he thinks it's Floyd against the world. Wait, let's go to that sucker punch. Would you have done that?
I would have done it, but I understand from his point of view. I mean, again, the guy trying to intentionally hurt you.
Right, and it had just happened.
Yeah, and it just happened.
We're talking about the headbutt.
Yeah, the headbutt. And it happened 20 hours ago.
That's the single worst thing you can do in the ring, right? Other than trying to knee somebody in the nuts.
When is that flagrant? When is that intentional? Blatant. I'm like...
Jumping. He jumped up.
Yeah, he jumped, which would have done some severe damage.
Seemed like he actually did get a cut lip, but yeah, that could have been a lot worse if it is.
I don't know, but but he didn't have to. Ortiz he's a good fighter, but and when he did that, I lost respect with that. You don't do that.
Do you feel like he lost his mind, or was that like a way out of the fight for him? Because up to that point, he wasn't doing anything.
There's desperation, frustration, and those things, those factors can create what took place. But it was just unfortunate. Then they talk about rematch.
There's no way that fight gets a rematch unless what happened.
Yeah.
And now I think it does get a rematch, and they can do, oh, you never beat me fair and square, and they do the whole thing. I'm not buying it.
No, neither am I.
When you must, being one of the best, whoever stepped in the ring, I think you're ranked number 9. Bert Sugar's all-time poll.
Yeah.
Bert Sugar's like 200. He saw every fight. He saw when they used to fight like this.
Bert's very incredible.
So do you get a little secretly competitive when like Mayweather comes up and everybody talks about, oh, this is Mayweather, best pound for pound. This guy's amazing, he's immortal, and deep down you're thinking like, oh man, I wish I could fight this guy.
If I said and think about that, I'd be lying, because I'm a fighter. I've been doing this for a long, long time, and I've always took value in my resume, if you will.
Yeah.
But I don't go there too long. I don't visit that, because it's hypothetical. It's all subjective. Who wins? You or Ray? You or Mayweather? But that's it's a beautiful thing when people talk about you fighting the present day great champion, like Mayweather or like a Pacquiao.
It's ridiculous to talk about, but who would have won with you and Mayweather?
I would have won. Yeah.
How would you have fought him? Because you had the two styles. You had the I'm going to mix it up, Duran 1 in Montreal style, and you had the I'm going to skate around and box you to death style. You would have gone Duran 1 style, right, for Mayweather?
I don't know. I don't know.
Stop. You've thought about it. I know you've thought about it.
It's not that easy, and I have to really sit down, observe him, watch him, find his pet peeves. It goes a little deeper than just watching him box or spar or talk. It's what bothers him. I play on all those things.
So you would watch the tapes, you would study, you'd look for any possible thing that you could work against him. Is that what you did?
How he's in public.
Yeah.
How he is just the two of us. Just the two of us. No one around. Just the two of us. And I'll measure that. I'll see what I can get out of that. I may get nothing out of it. But
is that something you always did? Like, did you do that against Duran?
The big guys, the real big guy. Duran did it against me.
Oh, so you learned from Duran?
I learned from Duran.
Duran messed with you in that fight. Like, even at the end, you went in for the little handshake, and he gave you like these. Didn't want any part of you
at all, and it really hurt my feelings.
Then he kicked his ass, so it was all even.
Yeah,
but you're friends with him now.
I know, and Tommy Hearns, we're friends.
That's funny. I would never be friends with anybody I had a fist fight with.
That's not a fist fight. It's etiquette. It's just, we respect each other. I mean, whether we say it or not, there's mutual respect with
But Duran, Duran had real animosity in that fight for you.
Yeah.
And you could feel it. And I watched that closed circuit in
he had
New Haven.
He had animosity towards me because
you're the pretty boy, you made more money.
All those other things. And, do I fault him? No, but they try to kind of categorize me as a white-collar fighter, and he's a blue-collar fighter.
Yeah. But meanwhile, the Benitez fight and the first Duran fight those were brawls. So it was the first Hearn fight.
Oh yeah.
I think the Hagler thing has stuck with you a little bit as he's a little fancy pants dance around guy. But if you go back to the early fights, that's not how you fought.
Well, the Hagler fight was more of a personal triumph as opposed to.
That was a chess match.
Oh yeah. I mean,
you were playing chess in that one.
Everything was calculated. Everything was calculated, from me running to the center of the ring to start the round, to me flurrying the last 30 seconds of the round, to me, just trying to get into his head.
You're bugging him between the rounds, like sticking your hands up. That stuff drove him crazy.
Oh, it drove him crazy because The reason I can say I got to in his head was after the fight had ended, the bell had rung. If you look at Hagler, he was dancing around.
Yeah, he did that weird dance. He never did that dance.
That is so uncharacteristic of him, ever.
Yeah.
People forget. See, they forget, and they don't pick up.
I remember watching that and thinking, he knows he lost. He never would have done that. Because I had watched like 25 Hagler fights at that point.
He's never, ever, you know?
Do you think it's weird that he basically went to Europe and never came back?
Yeah, he went to Milan.
Do you think partially you drove him there, or he was just so fed up with everything, or he made so much money from your fight?
No, I think he was fed up with just having to answer to that.
Yeah.
And he just went away. You know, I still consider Hagler a friend. You know, I'm sure he won't call me on my birthday, but I'm sure, there's respect there, without question. When I see him, we're cordial to one another. We kind of shake hands and a little quick hug. But, it's...
Did you almost fight him a second time?
I heard rumors that I didn't give him a rematch. Why wouldn't I give him a rematch?
It would have made a ton of money.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not even the money. It's the fact that... Because I knew how to beat him. And the fact that I never would not take a rematch, especially at that point in my career, my life, and I was on the upside. I went the distance with Marvin, so I knew exactly what to do next time. So
the latest project you're doing is Real Steel, this movie with Hugh Jackman. Boxing robots. It's one of those things that sounds ridiculous, but I saw the trailer and I was like, oh, I'm in on this. This sounds fantastic. Yeah. You orchestrated the fights with robots, which if you had explained this to yourself 30 years ago, you would have been confused.
Yeah, but having a chance to work with Hugh to kind of give him not just the punching, the proper way to execute a punch, but I let him know the feel, that attachment between a trainer and a fighter. It's a very intimate relationship, and he had that. He looked the part.
Yeah,
because he felt the part.
Huh.
And then with the robots, I choreographed the boxing moves and scenes, and nothing like Rock'em Sock'em. It was robots, 8-foot tall robots who were able to execute their particular style that I gave to each one of them. If it's a big guy, kind of like George Foreman, kind of boom, boom. But Adam reminded me a lot of myself, so I kind of gave him a little bit of magic.
Oh. So he was the favorite robot.
He was my favorite.
How much time did you spend on this? This sounds like it was time consuming.
It was, but I spent a good amount of time until they really nailed it. Because when you feel it, you feel it, and it resonates. It comes across. So
if Mayweather-Pacquiao ever happens, who you got?
Because they both showed me what I want. They both showed me what I wanted to see when they both was hurt.
Oh,
Sugar Shane by Sugar. I'm sorry, Mayweather by
Sugar Shane,
and Pacquiao by Margarito.
Yeah, that's right. He did get a little tagged in that one.
Exactly. So they both have displayed resilience, the ability to stay poised and come back and dominate. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know is not the answer I was looking for.
But that's what makes fights.
All right.
When you don't know. I mean, you may have a favorite.
But let's say you had to pick.
If I had to pick,
you have to pick.
Pacquiao.
Really?
Yep. But see, then my mind says, no, Ray, what are you doing? Because of the defense and Mayweather is a strategist.
He's like yourself.
Yeah.
Don't you think he'll be able to get into Pacquiao's head a little bit?
That's what I'm saying. That's why I couldn't answer your question.
Right. So maybe Mayweather should bring you in as a senior counsel for how to get in Pacquiao's head.
Why senior?
Vice president of head messing.
Senior counsel. Senior counsel.
Well, I think you're right, though. I also think Pacquiao could get in Mayweather's head. I don't know if he plays that game, but if anyone could have a head that got into it, it's Floyd Mayweather.
He doesn't. Pacquiao does that in the ring because all those punches.
Yeah.
He throws his volume of punches is off the hook, and Mayweather just so tactical and so strategic and he's sharp and powerful.
You think, is there anything we're going to learn from this third Marquez-Pacquiao fight?
It depends on where Marquez is now. We saw early what had happened. It was tough fight.
Yeah.
Styles make fights, but so I don't know where he is now. So, but I think Marquez always comes to fight, so it will be exciting.
It should be a good one. Sugar Ray Leonard, thank you so much for showing up. Appreciate it. We'll have to do this again.
Thanks, man.
My pleasure.
Cool.
So I get to sign off. Whoa!
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at PodCenter at ESPNRadio.com.
Peace out.